Hi everyone. I can see you've got a couple of people here. Just to introduce ourselves, I'm Lizzie. I'm the Digital Engagement Events Manager for Enactus UK, and I've got Georgie with me today, co-hosting. I can let you introduce yourself. Just let me know, is the audio working?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
Okay.
Fab.
Yeah, so my name is Georgi, actually. Lizzie needs to learn how to pronounce that. But it's okay. I was part of the Enactus Edinburgh team for about 3.5 years, and now I'm alumni mentor based in London, working in growth marketing. Also launching a couple of startups on the side. Yeah, that's me.
Fab. Okay. It is 6 o'clock, so we'll get started and hopefully more people will be joining us. Just let me know if the slides are working. Oh.
Yep.
Fab. So just a little overview of what we're covering in today's webinar. We're going to start with annual reports because that's the thing with the most guidelines. So what is an annual report? What are the essential elements of an annual report? And a couple of examples that we can talk you through and give you a bit of best practice for. And then also the team bio, which is optional, but we really highly recommend it, and how you can use that and how we use it a little bit differently this year. And also then we're going to go on to your AV and what makes a good presentation, a little bit of best practice from last year's, but generally just some creative ideas from the two of us. And then any questions you have at the end. So we'll get started, starting off with what is an annual report. So the annual reports are designed to outline your team's progress over the year. So essentially at the beginning of each presentation you give at regionals, nationals, every single time, you hand up your annual report at the beginning of the session, and the judges have 3 minutes to read it before your presentation starts. So it's to give them a really clear overview of everything that you've done this year. It's your chance to include things that you haven't included in your presentation, such as other projects that you'd like to highlight and showcase, if you'd like to showcase other teams' work within your team. And that's what it is.
Just a quick one. Not only it's a chance to include everything that you want to include. Yeah, like you should include it because this is the annual report of your basically the whole team. You should include everything that you did as much as possible because it shouldn't go unaccounted for.
Without still including too much stuff that they can't read in 3 minutes. It's a very fine balance.
It is, yeah.
It's tough. Okay, so that's roughly what it is, but the examples are the most important bits, so we'll press on key. Cool. Just a little bit of what is actually required of you. Annual reports are size of 4 A4 sheets. So most teams go with a double side of A3 folded. You can fold it in any way you want, but it's the maximum number of sheets. The paper is same size as 4 A4 sheets. You must have the signatures of your UA, team leader, and someone from your university administration. That could be an SU president. It could be we had our vice chancellor sign it. It could be anyone, really, anyone that's not your university advisor. Often SU presidents are a good bet. They are the most keen to sign it. Who did you have sign yours, Georgie?
Our university advisor, well, student union, not president. Yeah, president, but also, just 2 people from the student union.
Yeah,
one university advisor. Yeah.
Quite helpful if you have connections in the student union. To just ask one of those to sign it quickly or add a digital signature. So that's the easiest way to get signatures on your paper. I would say that for professionalism's sake, if you can get them signed by regionals or get a digital signature before regionals, that's going to go a long way in your professionalism for progressing through to nationals.
Yeah, what I found works best is you give them the actual annual report for them to sign so that they know what they're signing, but separately also asking them to sign a blank piece of paper that you can then Photoshop that signature onto your digital annual report. You don't want them signing 200 copies.
Yeah, bit tiresome.
Yeah.
It's also a really good way of getting a bit of exposure in university. If your UA is in the business school, for example, maybe you can forward it to the head of the business school and say, you know, this is something that we're doing, this is something that's going on in your department. We'd love it if you put your signature. If they don't know who you are, it's a really good overview for them to increase your exposure. So that's something to think about if you're interested in doing that. Yep, you also need to include your full breakdown of your team's costs and revenues. The minimum requirement for this is literally just to say, this is how much money came in and this is how much money went out this year, and what you spent that money in. You can do different things with it. You can fancy it up. I put some pie charts in mine last year. They didn't mean anything, but they looked really nice. So you've just got the minimum requirement there for your finance breakdown. Of course, if you're making a lot of money and you've got a lot of money moving around in your year, the more detail you can have, the less questions on your finances you're going to get in your Q&A, because it's not something people typically include in their presentations where their money has been spent, and you quite often will get questions on it.
Yeah, again, I think best practice is to include some detail, because some judges are really interested by the numbers, but that's not all judges, so you shouldn't focus too much on that. But also coming to the numbers, you need to memorize your expenditure. If you don't have the breakdown in your annual report, you should memorize it, because you might get asked in QA for a breakdown of your expenses. But we'll get to that later.
Yes. You have to include your business advisor logo. So every company, every person who's on your business advisor board, whatever company it is they come from, pop their logo in there. It's just a nice way to recognise the support that they've given you. And yeah, it's also just outlining again those bottom 2 points is your sizing. So once again, four A4 sheets, arranged any way you want. So that's the main bit. Cool. So how many to bring? This is basic again. So 15 for annual reports. Again, these are drafts. They don't have to be finalised. They will be given feedback. So don't print 100 copies and then feel a bit annoyed when you get feedback on them and then you have to go change and print them all again.
Yeah, don't worry with professional printing either. You can just print in your uni library for regionals.
Yeah, don't go too mad, because it does get expensive if you start printing them professionally at different places. I remember I looked at getting them on recycled paper. I thought that was really cool, but they were so expensive to print on recycled paper. Sorry, random tangent. We well proven that I do this when I'm talking.
Sometimes.
We'll move on. Okay, so this is the first example. This is yours.
Yep.
Yeah. You talk it through then.
Right. So this is the inside of our annual report. It's actually folded both sides, so like an open book. One fold was on the left between the two yellow boxes, and the other one was at the logos, as far as I remember. I think this is from 2 years ago. Lizzie?
Yeah, had a few more projects in it. Fogcatcher, your Edinburgh Candle Company.
Yeah, this is an old one. I can see. I remember. Yeah, so I created this one. Concept was, so this is the inside again. On the outside, we had a bit of a hero image, like a main image, like the logos, the financial breakdown, and all of the other projects. But on the inside, the the focus was to give all the details about the projects that we were presenting, that we're talking about on the slides. And yeah, we presented 3 projects that year: Slurp, the Edinburgh Candle Company, and Fogcatcher. And the idea of the annual report was to really separate those 3 things graphically, but also keep the same structure so that it's easy to read. You can also already follow the logic. On the left, we have target group, needs assessment, impact measurement. The middle section, we have the actual entrepreneurial solution, how the business works, how the project is set up. Then the right we have the impact, and the far right we have a breakdown of the project. And actually, yeah, I forgot to mention that actually the folding line was somewhere on the right of the entrepreneur solution. So when you fold it left to right, you could only see the logos. So the front page is literally like the other side of this sheet plus the logos. So you can see the logos from the before you open the report.
Quite an innovative way to fold it, really.
Yeah, so it wasn't right in the middle. It was like slightly to the side, so you can see the logos bit. Yeah, again, there's some blank space. I think that blank space was filled up. I'm not sure. Where'd you get that annual report from?
We just have some on file from like previous years. But I think the important thing to really highlight here is that we go from the sort of seeing opportunity on the left. So when you look at the judging criteria, again, we're always trying to think of seeing opportunity, taking action, enabling progress. So you can see the needs assessment, the impact measurement, like what is the opportunity you've highlighted there. Really nice and neat in a very easy way to read. You don't have to write a lot of words to get the point across, no matter how complicated your project is or how many projects you're presenting. The less is always more. And then you've got to in the middle, that's the entrepreneurial solution, and in progress on the right is the impact. I think what's really effective here is the use of colour to separate it out. Even though there's very little colour on the page, the nice brown, green, blue, nothing is overpowering about those colours, but it is a really nice identifier.
Yeah.
Hello, somebody off mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really use the brand colors as a way, as one of the ways to separate the projects, apart from the fact that I put them in 3 different boxes. But really think about this, because I have seen annual reports where I just open it and like it's a bunch of images and text thrown in together. You have no clue what's going on. It takes quite a bit of time to wrap your head around what's going on, like what are the different parts, and is this one project, are those 3 projects? Yeah, so think about how you present the information in a graphically pleasing way. And also with regards to copy, like the text that you use, yeah, like try to simplify it as much as possible. Try to remove unnecessary words. Try to say the essential information, to convey the essential information with the least words possible, so that you don't it doesn't look like you have tons of text on the page, but at the same time you convey everything necessary.
Okay, should we have a look at the next example?
Yep.
Yes. So this is another Teams. It's an old one again, so none of these projects I think are still going. This also isn't even a UK one, so that helps. Enactus, Utrecht. So what's really nice about this is they presented quite a lot of projects. We recommend you present, between 1 and 3, depending on what your impact is. But they obviously wanted to highlight, really highlight every single team that they had going there. And they make it really obvious, again, what George was just saying, like the different projects are very clearly separated. There is no crossover. The use of pictures is really nice, to show like a little bit of like, these are the people we've been working with. And again, bullet points down there. To be honest, if I had 3 minutes to read this, I would probably just read the bullet points in white, not the whole explanation, because what you're going to be looking for is like, which are the most important projects, which are the ones we want to take note of.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, the font size is really a bit small. I don't know. Yeah, but again, this comes to the overall strategy of your whole pitch, because the whole pitch is literally the presentation, the annual report, and the Q&A. So you need to think of those 3 elements in relation, combination. They go together.
Yeah.
So
if you weren't presenting this many projects, it would be quite a waste if you then put this many projects on your middle of your annual review, to be honest.
Yep.
Which I guess is a negative of this one.
Yeah, plus you can't really notice the Enactus logo. I just noticed it. Do you see it in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed it.
Okay, we'll look at the back cover of one then. Right, so this is the back cover of an annual report. And what you can see is what we were talking about earlier. You've got outlines of your other projects, commercial projects, consulting projects. It's nice that they split it up because often consulting projects you want to, and commercial projects, you want to recognise that they're there and you want to recognise your teams who are running them, but it's not the most essential information for the judges to be reading in those 3 minutes. So if they're going to skim over anything, make it easy for them to skim over the least important information. And then you've got the financial breakdown, your signatures and sponsor logos, which are all essential parts. They're all required to be in your annual report. So important to get them in there. I'm not sure how I feel about this brown, to be honest.
Yeah.
From a design point.
It's an interesting way to represent data because I think they're showing the same data twice, once in a table, once in a pie chart. I would either go with one or the other, really.
Yeah.
Bar chart is also a nice way to present that.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a waste of space next to the bar charts. Probably not the best way to show it. If you were gonna do it in multiple ways, I'd probably make it a part of a graphic somehow.
Yeah.
Work a bit harder for you.
Yeah, and then if you remove one of those design elements, you can increase the font size at the top because it's a bit small. So yeah.
Yeah.
Think about your space. You have limited space.
Yes. Okay. So we'll just move on quickly to the team bio. This is something you can put inside of your annual report. It's got all of the information of your presenting teams on it. Essentially what it's there for is that if the judges want to get in touch with you afterwards, they can do using your team bio. This has happened in the past, like judges have offered jobs to people based off their presentations, or they've offered to be part of the business advisor team. My alumni mentor came from a regional competition and got in touch with us afterwards, which was really nice, very unexpected. From me being completely new into Enactus to get an alumni mentor out of a regional competition. But that was nice. Yeah, so that's essentially what the team bios are for. There's a little example of one here. And what I sort of suggest as well this year is using QR codes. So if you like, you can set up a QR code that essentially means that if a judge scans it, they can send an email, they can download your information really easily while they're, instead of having dozens of pieces of paper. Just something to think about as a little bit of an addition if you fancy doing it.
That could be cool.
Yeah, I've gone a bit QR code mad this year for nationals, so yeah, prepared to see them everywhere. But you can do so much with them, so it's very exciting stuff.
You sound very excited about this, yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited about QR codes.
Yeah, QR codes spread around the nationals venue is one thing, but like if you put 7 QR codes on one page, one team bio, I don't know about that. Need to see it. Maybe
one QR code where you can get all the team's information or the team leaders' information or something like that. But maybe have a think about it, see what you can do with them.
Yeah, really cool idea though, yeah.
Why not? Okay, so just a couple of little things to remember about your annual reports, and then maybe we can take questions about annual reports before we do AV, or should we do AV and then do all questions at the end?
Yeah, well, you can type in your questions in the chat while we're going, and we can go back to them later. So, yeah.
Okay. Fab. So yeah, if you've got any questions, please do type them in the chat box. So just to remember, highlight a couple of things from this. It's quite a long list, but simple is absolutely the best thing. Make it easy for judges to tick their boxes of seeing opportunities, taking action, enabling progress, and be brand consistent is a big one for me. Sussex, I was the team leader at Sussex, and I designed our annual report, and our university colours were this nice teal. So everything on our annual report, our presentation, everything was in teal. You don't have to use the yellow and grey. You can make your team stand out a bit. I know you guys use the Edinburgh, like, what's it called?
Tartan.
Tartan, yes, tartan.
Yeah.
And if you put it on your annual report ever, but it's a nice way to differentiate your presentation from everybody else's.
Yeah, because then we also had like the guys who had tartan ties,
Yeah,
and the
we had
girls had
teal ties as well.
yeah, tartan brooches. Yeah,
Yeah, it's nice. So yeah,
it complements. It makes it like one thing, one complete thing. And I know some people get excited about looking nice. So
yeah, I mean, officially, like, we don't recommend that you have to go out and buy a whole outfit, but what we did is we bought certain number of ties and a certain number of scarves all in the same color so that the team can keep them each year and keep wearing them. So it's more of an investment for the
you
team.
bought them? We
Yeah,
just went to our union. They gave us free.
give you free ties. Well, maybe that's
Yeah.
something you could look into if you're watching this webinar. See how.
Yeah, that's especially uni merchandise is expensive. But if you go to your uni and say, okay, we're gonna represent the uni at the national event, they'll be willing to sponsor you too, and that's the least they can do. Give you some free ties. So definitely take advantage.
I did buy ours off Amazon, and I'm pretty sure they were sort of designed for glee clubs or something like that. So they weren't massively expensive, but if you can get really nice tartan ones for free, or, you know, maybe not tartan because I can't see any Scottish teams on the webinar tonight, but something else for free, why not?
Yep.
So yeah, that's my 3 big points. Anything you want to add?
Not sure. 3 big points about?
Simple,
Distracted. Sorry.
easy just to tick the boxes, and brand consistent. I know when we start talking about branding, it's a whole other thing, isn't it?
Yeah, we've done that at the training weekend. Yeah, simple. Yeah, don't overload it with a lot of text. Really try to be as efficient as possible. Use infographics as well, where possible, to represent. Instead of saying a word, you might as well, add a little icon, because images speak like 1,000 words, right? Or something like that. Was the saying?
An image is worth 1,000 words, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Something else that I think a lot of teams started doing last year is showing which of the global goals your projects align with. That's quite nice because a lot of the judges won't, quite a few of the judges will be coming from sponsor companies, but they won't necessarily know loads about Enactus unless they're already a business advisor. But the global goals are really recognisable, and a lot of judges will know what they mean if you put them in the annual report. It's not something I suggest you plaster all over your presentation, but it's quite nice to have it in there. It's quite recognisable for the judges as a little icon.
Yeah, it's not something that we've ever done in 4 years, but why not? Yeah.
We did it. It was nice. A lot of people did from looking at that. So
Yeah, it's a recurring theme in Enactus World Cup as well. Yeah, teams do it. Yeah, if you feel like doing it, do it. It can't hurt. It won't hurt.
you got the space.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so moving on to audiovisual options. There are basically no guidelines for your audiovisual presentation to go along with your script. So it's very hard to sort of put anything down on a slide to say this is what you should do. There's a lot of different things you can do. There's video versus PowerPoint. If you're a fairly small team, if you don't know much about video or you don't want to put loads of time into it, a PowerPoint is easier. Coming from a small new team with no video capabilities, we did all of ours in PowerPoint. You did much more video?
Oh yeah. For the past 3 years, we've been doing video. I think the team is doing video this year again. Yeah, there's a few things to take into consideration in PowerPoint. You can click the slides whenever you want to, whenever you don't need to pace the presenters basically. But when you have a video, you can't pause the video. Like the video is rolling. If something happens on the stage, mic stops working, the video is rolling, and usually you have timed it to be 17 minutes. So if you stop it, you run over the 17 minutes and you get cut off. So think about those things as well. For a video presentation, you need an extra person to conduct the team and basically tell them if they're ahead of the video or and that's what I did for my team for the past couple of years, because I was the one who made the slides and I knew them best. And it's a bit of a hassle to time everything perfectly as well. Script needs to be locked in like quite a few weeks in advance. It's more work. Basically, it's more work. So see if you want to splash it out with a video. It's really good. It's attractive. It's sexy, but it's a lot more work. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
what I see some teams doing is short videos that end with a slide that's sort of got a summary of what happened in that video, inserted into a PowerPoint presentation, so they can click a video that rolls for a couple of minutes, ends on their sort of conclusion for that area, and then if the presenters aren't running to time, that can pause at that point. It makes it a lot easier than trying to pause a whole long video, and you give yourself a little bit more flexibility in your timing if you want to run your script exactly to a video. PowerPoint is
That's a good strategy. Yeah, sounds like it. Never tried it.
PowerPoint is a perfectly legitimate way of doing it, though. It's nice if you can make your slides consistent. You don't even necessarily have to do fancy things moving around on your slides.
And that's a really important point, that you don't, Lizzie, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're never judged on presentation.
No.
So you're judged on content.
Information.
So
you will not get marked down if you don't have a video.
Or like if there's a problem with your video, it's about the content really, and what you say and what is there on the screen. There's no, like on the judging sheet, there's nothing about quality of the video or presentation or PowerPoint or annual report.
So I wouldn't worry if you're not doing video, or any PowerPoint that's particularly flashy. I made every single one of my PowerPoint slides in Canva, which is a free sort of online design software. It's already got PowerPoint slides sizes up there, and you can do colors, and you can make a set color so it's easy to replace and like be consistent throughout your slides. And they've got loads of like icons and styles already built in. It's really easy to use. It's really easy to use for your annual report as well, or to create infographics or any of those sorts of things.
Plug. Are you sure you're not paid by Canva?
I wish I was paid by Canva, because I promote them so much. But they're great and they're free, and I use them a lot for all my work stuff. These slides, the background of these slides are in Canva. There's no need for it, but they are. They're just slide backgrounds. But yeah, it's very clean, it's very crisp, very good software if that's something you want to use. So the next point is, this is half a script point, half an AV point, is how many presenters you have. It does play in a little bit to your AV, because you've got to coordinate people to what's happening. Typically people pick about 4 people to present. You're allowed 7 total, including your clicker. So that's something to take into account, but 7 people up on stage is a lot, and it's very confusing.
Actually, aren't you allowed 6 plus 1 for QA?
No, 7 including the clicker, but generally people say they're part of the presentation team and then will stand up for Q&A, which is what I did last year. I sat down and then just stood up for the Q&A, so not.
Yeah, you're able to go on the stage for the Q&A. Like you're able to add 1 more person on stage.
Yeah.
So if, for example, if you have your team leader who doesn't want to present, but they're the most knowledgeable across all projects, they'll be a good addition to the team on stage when it comes to
Yeah.
Q&A.
If you're the team leader listening to this, you're probably thinking, God, I have so many things to do already, without having to make the presentation or memorize the script that I'm writing. So you don't have to stand up and do it. You can still get up and do Q&A. I'd just recommend you practice a bit of Q&A.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Beforehand, and make sure you are comfortable public speaking, because if you're shaky on your Q&A, it will take up a lot of time very quickly. You only have 5 minutes. If you answer one question in a very long, flappy way, it will eat up your time.
Yeah, I would say that Q&A is really as an addition. Think of it as an addition to your PowerPoint, to your presentation, and treat it respectively, because it's literally an additional 5 minutes to talk about your project, and you need to take those 5 minutes, like all of them. So for example, I remember the Canada team at World Cup, they had scripted answers for Q&A. So pretty much no matter what they asked them, they had a scripted answer, and it was clear that it's a scripted answer and they've practiced it many times. I don't that's not something that I recommend doing, but definitely not
hey, they won.
Pay some attention to QA, like practice it as well.
Yeah. Or at least think about it and, like you said, memorize the finances or numbers that you might need to know.
Yeah, because you get the question and you better know.
So moving on to the next point, we've got long introduction versus short introduction. So there's a couple of things that teams do here. It's half built into your script. Some of it's just built into the AV. What we did last year is we talked a lot about our team development and our team journey, because it was really important to us that we showed that we'd come from being 6 people, which we shouted out like 3 times at the very start of our presentation. The team journey was really important to us. Sometimes what a team does is puts together a 1-2 minute video to introduce the team, to show who they are, what they stand for, your team culture, and that's quite nice. It means you've got 2 minutes less script that you have to prepare for or memorize or that sort of thing. What did you guys do last year? You started straight with the video of the deaf guy, right?
Yes, so we'll leaped directly into our first project. We did that for World Cup as well. It was just a very powerful way to hook people in. However, previous years we've done.
It's go follow this link, and all the final round presentations there, so you can see what we're talking about now.
Yeah, but previously we have done time lapse of Edinburgh with voiceover of like our team values, about a minute of that. But for World Cup in particular and nationals last year, we decided that we'd rather talk more about our projects, because we had stuff to talk about really. So we skipped the intro. Also, some speaking of introduction, some teams present their presenters. So they're like, okay, this is George and this is Sally. We're here to talk about Enactus, to tell you about the Enactus Team X project. But you don't need to do that. You can be nameless presenters. Really up to you.
Yeah, I think it really does depend on how much you've got to say about your projects. If you've got loads to say, it's not necessary to do an introduction of your team. You can let your project speak for themselves and work in what your team stands for as you're going along. But the musical introduction is quite nice, a video sort of intro to your team. I really enjoy those. So the other choice that we've got here is whether you put music or whether you don't put music in your presentation at all. Some teams, if you've got a whole video, play music throughout, and I think personally it distracts from the speakers. If you don't get the volume control right and you have only got 3 minutes to plug in your laptop and get ready, it can be a real mess trying to speak over the music.
Yeah, it's definitely a hazard. It's a risk that you take, but we've never failed so far. I've not seen a massive failure. Like usually, especially at final round, there's a tech guy right next to you who can always adjust the volume.
It's a nice emotional addition, and
Yeah, that's the main reason to add music.
when I
Uh,
was adding, oh sorry, you go.
right, I just want to say that it boosts the emotion. So if it's a sad emotion that you're trying to convey, it boosts it, and if it's a happy one, again, it improves the effect.
I remember last year when I was doing my when I was working on my AV, and I was asking my alumni mentor about this, and she had done the AV for the World Cup when Sheffield went to the World Cup a couple of years ago, and she said that the only music they put in is when they're doing their big conclusion at the end, and they had like pictures of the whole team flashing up, you know, everything they've done throughout the year, like real, you know, team bonding, like big emotional, like we're in it together family type thing. They did music right at the end, and that was sort of a signature thing for them. And I thought that was really nice, but they didn't bother with it in the rest of the presentation. I think the point is you can add it in where you want. Just make sure it's not, you know, all of a sudden blasting out and then all of a sudden stops in the middle of a rift, because that will sound very dodgy and unprofessional.
Yeah, personally, I'm of the opinion that you either go with music or without music, and I've seen presentations where there's music at the end, and it almost comes unexpected, and you're like, wow, where does this music come from suddenly? So
Yeah,
so yeah,
artistic choice is what we're trying
yeah,
to.
absolutely, yeah.
Pros and cons to both. And again, it depends on how much time you've got. We had no music in ours, and we made semi-finals last year. It's not going to detriment you if you don't do it. But if you got to the final round and you're there and you've got 4 amazing teams, all with similar impact and fantastic projects, often the one that really speaks to the judges will be the one that gets there. So that's the sort of thing you should be thinking out about if you're expecting to reach the higher levels. Cool.
Yep.
So I've just got a couple of like best practices from the teams last year. You can see the Edinburgh team on stage. So this was the beginning of your presentation, and it was silence, and that was like a real, we mentioned this earlier, it was a real like capture attention, like what's going on. All of us in the audience were panicking, thinking, oh my god, their sound isn't working, like this is the worst thing that could have happened.
Did we actually manage to achieve this effect? Because
yeah, we were all panicked. We thought that, you know, something had gone really wrong in your presentation, and we were looking at each other like, oh my god, what's going on?
So yeah, just a bit of context. Yeah, the first 10 seconds of our video is this woman speaking, but there's no sound, and the team is looking at the screens, the video screens, and there's silence in the room for like 10 seconds. After which the team turns around and starts talking, and says something like, "Confusing, isn't it? And being able." Seeing someone speaking but not being able to hear what they say, kind of thing. So yeah,
so dramatic. That was fantastic. So anything you can do to hook them from the first start and make you really feel emotionally connected to the beneficiaries was fantastic, I thought.
Yeah, I think one team on the final round 2 years ago, they had like a screaming child or something.
Oh yeah, it was Southampton with their bugs in the feet thing.
Yeah, that was quite disturbing, I found it. So yeah.
All right, we'll move on from the screaming children. Yeah, people didn't like it. It was very emotionally heart-pulling, but it was tough to watch, I think, and
yeah,
not what you want to see always. Yes, moving on, KCL. KCL did this really cool thing where often if you're in another country, or if you're sat in a local crash centre or something like that, if you don't have professional videography kit, the sound quality in your videos is not always the best. So it can look quite bad if you've got videos up on screen of people talking and the sound is, all over the place, and you've got subtitles, and if they talk quickly and the subtitles are on and you can't read it, it's very distracting. We did it in hours, but what was really nice in KCL's last year is they had a girl on their team who spoke the native language of the country they were working in. So they had her speaking the testimonial and another member of their team translating it, which I thought was really effective and really powerful. I don't know if you remember this.
No, I've missed that, but yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I love that.
But it was really cool. And something from Essex, which they put in their presentation, which is really helpful as well, is they had a top bar running along their entire presentation. It stayed on every single slide or video, whatever it was they had. And as they moved through their projects, it highlighted seeing opportunity or taking action or enabling progress. So at any point in the presentation, you could see what project, they had the project name as well at the top, what project they were talking about, and then what stage of the judging criteria they were discussing at that point. So again, they were just making it super easy for the judges to mark them, because you could see at any what they were doing, which I think was really nice.
Yeah, that's a thing that some teams do, including India. I remember when they won World Cup in London, actually, like 2 years ago. They had such a progress bar. It does help judges a lot, because they have they have different sections that they evaluate each team on, and if they have the relevant sections on screen, they can follow really easily. Personally, that's something that I've, like, from design point of view, I have always avoided doing, because I'd rather focus on the story. Just different way of telling your team story, really, and your project's story. So yeah.
I think if you're writing a script for the first time and you're trying to organize your presentation, it can be quite helpful to decide what to put on the screen, to think about it in the sections. Whether you put it up on screen or not, a progress bar is up to you, but it's a thing. It's a thing that people do, which I think is quite unique or interesting. So we just a couple of things to remember. Make your presentation stand out is an obvious one. How you do that, I guess, to me, is showing who you are as a team and what makes your team different. We had our team colours that ran throughout the whole thing, and we talked a lot about our team values and our team culture, and that's something that we tried to integrate into our presentation. I think showing who you are as a team is really nice, because there's 61 universities. I mean, there'll be 32 at nationals, but showing what makes you different from the other 31 and what makes you think the judges should progress you as a personal team is a nice thing to do. You don't feel like you have to memorize your script when you're thinking about you're presenting. Do practice how you're going to say it, and practice your intonations and all those sorts of things, where you're going to have pauses for dramatics, where you're going to speak softly or speak loudly. But a lot of teams are using cue cards, and it's perfectly valid choice. You will not be marked down for not memorizing your script, and it's a nice safety net. If you're not sure, if you panic that you will accidentally forget your lines, it's a good safety net. So yeah, and if you're using sound, make sure it's good quality. I just wanted to reinforce that message.
Yep.
Cool. Any points to add?
Yeah, I think of the whole presentation with your Q&A and the annual report and the team bio as one whole thing. That's what the judges see, that's what the judges evaluate. Make it consistent. Try to add a running theme, like whether that's like a tartan on the side, or like on the slides, or on your clothes. That'd be good. Yeah, think of it. Think of all those different elements as complementary to each other. So So the way I think about it is in the annual report, you add all the key information about the project. But in the presentation, you really highlight and stress on specific aspects, and you elaborate more on, like, for example, the business model, or like what you found in the needs assessment. You just provide more detail than the annual report. But then the judges, because after the presentation and after the Q&A, they will go back to your annual report, and often they actually make notes on the annual report.
As they're
So yeah, as they're marking. So think about that as well. They need to complement each other.
Cool. So we've had one question. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, you said there needs to be some mention of the inflow and outflow of the project. However, the project is not officially off the ground. We just mentioned the projected figures in the report. So in the report, it's not just your project figures, it's your entire society figures. So you need to put the number that you've had, your starting balance for the year, essentially. And then how much money has gone into that account. You don't have to break it down by project at all.
No.
You literally just have to say, this is how much money we started with this year. This is what money came in from membership fees, maybe, fundraising, grants, and then this is where the money's gone. And you can say project money, socials, any of that. So you don't need to break it down by project. If you've had a really high moving project in terms of finances, that's something you can include in a bit more detail. But if you've not, it doesn't matter. You just do your overall expenses.
But again, also don't put stuff like like travel to London or like travel to training weekends, even though that's valid. I know that some teams put it as like
Events expenses,
or like even worse, personal development kind of money, and it would just get you questions. Like judges would be like, what is that? Like, why did you spend £300 on personal development? What do you mean? So yeah, you don't want to get yourself into uncomfortable situations.
You do need to report how much money has gone out of your account.
Yeah.
But I would just put events. You know, everyone knows that you have to spend money to get to nationals, to get to training weekends. So that's fine. I did see Nottingham get a question last year about the money they'd spent on training, I think it was, or personal development. And it had spent a lot of money because they'd taken their entire team for a weekend at Grantham. And so they got a big question mark over why they'd spent that much money on it.
And if you decide to go minimally, you can say revenue, inflow, outflow, starting balance, and closing balance, and that's the bare minimum you need to mention. However, you need to know the numbers of the breakdown, because you might get a question, okay, so we have spent that much money and that's all I see. How does it break down? What percentage of that went towards project? What percentage went towards different things? So you might get that question from judges. So you need to know the numbers, even if you don't include them on the annual report.
But again, if the project you've just started does not have inflow or outflow, you're unlikely to get questions about it, and it's perfectly valid to say project is new and therefore we haven't made any money off it yet. We presented 2 projects last year and both were in the idea to implementation stage. So it's not a worrisome if you haven't started making money off your project yet. Are there any other questions from anybody? I might just give you 10 seconds to write something in the box, and if not, thank you all very much for listening to the webinar. If you do want any support with your annual review or your presentation, you're more than welcome to drop me an email. You've got your program managers as well. It is their job to check over your scripts and annual reports, so do give them a bell. For everyone on here who hasn't given me their regionals registrations yet either, they're due in tomorrow. So look forward to seeing you all at regionals. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd also be happy to give anyone feedback. So don't hesitate to reach out. Lizzie, what's the best way?
If you want to send anything, pop your email in the chat box now, and then anyone on the webinar can see it.
There you go.
Wow, wonderful. Okie dokie. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I hope this was helpful.